Well, friends of Mundo Maldini, now we have the spectacular views here on the 14th floor of the Nuba Hotel in Barcelona. Hotel that the truth always welcomes us. With everything here. Every time we come to do matches in Barcelona, spectacular, spectacular. To make use of this magnificent place, here we have it. This is just about where yesterday's match took place, of course. There is the port of Barcelona, the airport, where you can see planes arriving constantly. Well, I want to talk about the new format of the Champions League, because now we can really discuss the new format of the Champions League. Since we've already experienced the full league format, I want to analyze it, I want to give my opinion, and I want to hear yours. Right, let's go. Well, friends of Mundo Maldini, I've already shown you these spectacular views from this hotel here in Barcelona. But right after having breakfast with a tea that was recommended to me, by the way, it's a tea the girl told me. It's tomato, this tea that's really good, very smooth. It's called Sakura. I really like the tea. I like this Sakura tea a lot. Well then, time for reflection. Now that it's all over, we can really talk about it properly. Now we can truly discuss it about what this phase of the Champions League has been like, this new format of the Champions, because it's already finished. The truth is that I haven't done the math, but they are 8 rounds with 18 matches, and there have only been 2 meaningless matches. Out of all the matches that have taken place, there have only been 2 meaningless matches that didn't matter at all, that were played yesterday. And it was just a coincidence that 2 matches featured 4 teams that were already eliminated. That was just a coincidence, obviously, in the draw, but all the other matches have been important. And not just for the teams in contention, but for the rest of everyone. Practically all the teams that were in competition, not all of them, of course, but almost all of them that were in competition. I have to say, the first thing, I really like the format. I really like the format. And honestly, I tell you with my hand on my heart that I'm not trying to sell you the Movistar product. I'm just commenting on the champions. And honestly, I'm not going to tell you a story right when the draw happened, when the draw for the Champions League phase took place. Of the phase of the Champions League, the draw ended, and Enrique, our head of sports, called me. He said he was really excited about the draw. And I said, look, Enrique, I promise you, I really don't say this to sell the Movistar product. I say it because I truly believe it. Besides, if I sell the product better, but I'm not doing it because I'm not lying, trying to say that I like it. When I don't like it, I really love the format. I really love the format. I really love it. And I also respect those who don't like it. Of course, I have a great friend who is Alexis Mr. Chip, who is probably watching this video and is going to tell me, we've discussed this a lot on Despejados. A great friend, a great connoisseur of the football world, whose opinions I always take into consideration, whether you agree with me or not. In this case, he doesn't agree, he doesn't like it, that's fine. He doesn't like it, he doesn't like it. What I do like is this one, but he doesn't like it, and I respect that. I recognize that there are things that can be improved, but taking a balance of the good things and the not so good things, it seems to me that it is better than last season and the last few years in the group stage. The first thing is that there have only been 2 inconsequential games, but I go further. We have seen many thrashings because the teams could not relax at any time. I remember the first match day when we saw a thrashing by Dortmund over Celtic. I said, no, too much imbalance, lie. Too much imbalance, no, lie. In the end, Celtic qualified, for example. For the next round, for the playoffs, that's a lie. What happened is that teams needed to score heavily and couldn't ease off at any moment, because goal difference could be decisive. It could be decisive. In fact, it has been decisive in some cases because there have been many ties in the end, so that's also... He is definitely in that too. In that too, I think this new format has improved a lot what the competition is. And then there's one thing. I was listening yesterday to my brothers from the Copia Network, Paco Gonzalez, whom I also respect a lot, of course, for all his opinions. Absolutely. On the contrary, I take them very much into consideration. And there's one thing he didn't like, and I can understand him. Of course, it's true that you say no, but in the end, Atletico de Madrid, which finished 5th, will probably have a much tougher matchup. Atletico de Madrid has had bad luck because they finished 5th. In the entire Champions League, in the end, you're going to find yourself facing either Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, or Manchester City in the round of 16. For sure, they haven't had much luck. But of course you say no, but here we are thinking, and that is how it is, that Manchester City is better than the teams that have finished ahead. And it is true that they are. But of course the competition dictates what it dictates. That is, if in the end Manchester City has scored fewer points than the team that has finished. The 11th or 12th, well, what can we do? What can we do? I mean, I want to say that this is impossible to avoid. I mean, you can't avoid that. You can't avoid that in any way, that there are these kinds of things, that in the end there are very powerful teams that have been left behind by teams that do not, theoretically, they are less powerful because they have been stronger than them in the competition. If not, there's no competition. So let's make a ranking of teams based on the level of players, and then let's go straight to the round of 16. We're going to do, if Lille has earned more points than Manchester City, then there must be a reason for that. It's also true, and I have to admit this, that one of the things that hasn't completely convinced me is that some paths have been much harder than others. It is clear that the path of Paris Saint-Germain, which by the way has ended up sweeping, has been much harder than the path of Brest. That's true indeed. Brest has a much better chance of finishing above, I admit that. But other than that, it's just that I've loved this league, and especially the final fireworks from yesterday were spectacular. You can't deny that yesterday was spectacular, a fireworks show of 18 matches, of which 16 were really important in all different areas of the table. It was very important. Barca was close to being first in the end. They were just one goal away from being first. But if they had scored the second goal against Atalanta or the third, Barca would have lost. I mean, Barca was one goal away from being first and one goal against from being fifth, for example. And there are teams... By the way, I'm really glad there wasn't a Viscoto in the Stuttgart-Paris Saint-Germain match. I had my doubts, I have to admit it. But I'm glad there wasn't a Viscoto, because PSG has shown the potential it has. PSG has been one of the teams that has had the worst luck in this Champions League phase. That has had the worst luck in terms of the draw, based on their journey and the opponents they've faced. And they've had the worst luck in the matches. Because a series of matches they should have won, one of them like against Atletico de Madrid, and they ended up losing them. Well, in the end, he scored 8 goals in the last 2 matches. Against Manchester City and Stuttgart, which were playing for qualification yesterday, we've had surprises, as always. We've had very few filler matches this season. Last season, we had many more filler matches. Remember how many matches there were? We have a very short memory. I understand that people always like to criticize the new. There's a certain reluctance to change. But remember, friends of Mundo Maldini, how many matches we've seen in other seasons with teams like Madrid, Bayern, or City, where in the last 2 matches of the group stage, they were already putting in substitutes because they were already qualified, even as first. And that, in the end, was what distorted the competition, because being in the same group, you played against Manchester City on the first day with their starters, and then in the 5th match, with City already qualified, you put in substitutes, or Madrid has happened 1,000 times. Remember? That doesn't happen today. That doesn't happen today because every position is important. Every position is important. And then you tell me, well, it doesn't matter if you're 11th or 17th, because in the end, or 23rd, because in the end, all the big teams make it. Well, back then, all the big teams made it through too. It was very hard to see a big team get eliminated in the group stage. It happened, but it was hard. It was difficult. In other words, in the end, all the big teams have made it through, but many of them had a tough time. City was 45 minutes away, Manchester City, from being eliminated from the Champions League, just 45 minutes away. So in the end, I actually like the format. I like it a lot. And I also think that now the best is coming. Obviously, now the best is coming. Let's see what happens in the draw tomorrow. We have a potential Madrid-Manchester City or Bayern-Manchester City matchup. One of those 2 matches is guaranteed. Either Madrid-City or Bayern-City is for sure. We have a potential Milan-Juve matchup. We have a potential PSV-Feyenoord. I also like that starting from the next round, teams from the same country or teams that have played against each other in the league can face off. I like that too. I like the new format. What do you want me to say? Also today we have another big finale in the Europa League, which I'm going to comment on in Barcelona, the Roma-Eintracht match. Roma, just like what happened to City yesterday. A big team, of course, an important team, not as much as City, but an important team in its competition, should be one of the favorites. It's at a very high risk of being eliminated, because the big teams also struggle in this format, both in the Champions League, just as PSG or just as Manchester City, as well as in the Europa League, and just as Claudio Ranieri's Roma. Anyway, we continue. Friends of Mundo Maldini, as always, with a bunch of videos. A hug, bye.